Hello, everyone. This is Matt Tandy with Formatic Property Management. I am making a special video about the coronavirus, COVID-19, novel coronavirus, whatever you want to call it. This is not about the medical impact. This is the economic impact to landlords. And so if you are a landlord, this is probably one of the most important videos you can watch about what's happening beyond the medical ones. And so, especially if in California, the information here is constantly updating, constantly changing. Every hour, I'm getting notifications of new laws affecting our clients, new laws, new emergency measures. And so, please stay tuned. Reach out to us if you have questions. To give you an idea of how dense this information is and how much has been happening as it's been going through and how much we're following, my original video for this was over half an hour. I'm trying to keep this one under 10 minutes. This is my fifth try of that. So I want to keep it a little viewable. But again, it is very critical. If you have questions, email them to hello@formaticpm.com. You don't have to be a client of ours. Hello@formatic, that's Formatic, PM, like property manager.com. And if you're a current client, you can also reach out to your property coordinator or property manager. All right, real basic things. The coronavirus has definitely impacted a lot of people. Even if no one gets sick or dies, the economic impact is likely going to be felt for many years to come. And there's several legal aspects that have come into effect that will absolutely affect the majority of our clients. And let's run through that. The coronavirus has been declared a pandemic, upgraded from an epidemic by the World Health Organization. This means governments and organizations take extra protective measures. California on March 5th, even before then, had declared a state of emergency. We're going to talk about how that affects you here in a few minutes. If you have rentals in California, suffice to say, violating it equals jail time and a lot of money lost. Let's start then with how is it going to impact your tenants, and because it's a knock-on effect, kind of like a trickle-up economics here. So one of the big bellwethers is the service industry, hospitality industry, and already, for instance, in an Airbnb, 60% drop in bookings year over year. Over half of Airbnbs, for a lot of people we know, have already been canceled. It's not just because of vacations, it's because of conferences that are being canceled, sports events that are being canceled. We've seen that the NBA, the NHL, Major League Baseball, U.S. Soccer Federation have canceled or suspended their games until further notice. Or they have adjusted it to where no public is allowed to view the game except for online. So this means it impacts the workers in the service industries around the restaurants, hotels, and other places near there, because if you don't have people going to the stadiums, you don't have people eating at the restaurants nearby. We expect to see many businesses fold because of this if it doesn't get under control very, very soon. There are programs being put in place that will help a lot of these businesses, but it's a bureaucracy. And for many people, by the time the money comes in, it will be too late. So it's not just the owners, the employees, the wait staff, they're all going to be affected. Hotel workers, conference staff, caterers, maids, and more. We're already seeing many of them get furloughed. The people who clean the Airbnbs, they're struggling. The stores and shop owners, they're struggling, whether they're selling knickknacks or something else. Students predominantly are in these fields, or low-income families, or usually a spouse is working at where one spouse has one job, maybe an office job, and another spouse is picking up extra hours in the service industry. That's going to affect them as well. And with universities are starting to shut down, that's a big thing. If the universities are shutting down and moving online, all these university towns, which Southern California has a lot of, and areas around universities, are suddenly going to find themselves without students spending money. And that's going to affect everybody in there. And to be clear, what's happening when I say affect, a lot of people are going to be what's called furloughed. If you're not familiar with the term, it's kind of like being fired, except for you usually get to have your job back when there's money, if there's still business back. And the impact of this affects those who are furloughed because that money's gone. They don't get it back. So all those debts they accumulate during that time, they're going to be working those off for a long time to come. And for the businesses, that's going to affect because the furloughed people can often apply for unemployment, and unemployment rates then go up for that business, and that's going to affect them for several years to the tune of thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands a year in extra unemployment insurance costs. So the airlines, of course, everyone should be already aware that there's a lot of travel bans, a lot of other issues going on, including from Europe if you're not a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident. That means everybody from the baggage claim people to the pilots and other workers, they're going to be facing furloughs. Many of them already are. Companies are postponing big purchase and investments. Schools, regular schools, this is one of the biggest ones. We are already seeing public schools shut down or go to online courses. Now, you may think, well, that's going to affect the janitorial staff and the cafeteria people and all those other people. Well, you're right. There's an even bigger impact. If the Smiths and the Browns have family or have kids in school and both parents are working, but now they have their children are home from school all day, who's going to be there to watch 7-year-old Jimmy? Well, one of the parents is going to have to be. So even if the parent's own job isn't directly affected, they're going to have to willingly, and I use that loosely, they're going to have to go ahead and stay home from work more often, reduce hours, balance it out. And that's going to affect a lot of people. That affect businesses that employ these parents affected by that. Parades are canceled. Cruises have shut down for 60 days. Princess and Viking shut down this morning for 60 days. We're going to see more of that. That affects dock workers. Hollywood Productions, which we have a lot of people involved in that in our tenants, they're going to find themselves without work for a period of time. Their big impact is courts. The courts are shutting down to the public in general, and a lot of the courts. And then also if the judge who oversees the evictions gets quarantined, or the court gets quarantined or things like that, it's going to be an issue. We've already seen courts clearing off their dockets. Now onto some of the legal aspects. That's the economic, so you can expect that a lot of tenants are going to be calling us starting in April saying they're going to have problems paying the rent. Some will be legitimate, some will not, and it's going to get crazy. We're going to handle this for you, and we'll talk about that in a minute too. On the legal side of things, there are lots of cities, and I expect statewide laws stopping all evictions for failure to pay rent for people who can show they're affected by the virus. How can they show that? That's up in the air. Who gets to figure it out? That's us. Fortunately for you, we've got you covered. If you have questions, please reach out to us. But just expect that you may have a period of time, multiple months, where the tenant owes the rent, but you can't do anything about it. Now, California has declared a state of emergency. It's effective March 5th. It's good for 30 days. It can be renewed and probably will be renewed. This means we cannot increase your rent more than 10% of the current rent. There are no exceptions to this. It means also you can't kick a tenant out to raise it more than 10% in between tenants. So if you're an investor, bought a property, don't think you're kicking the old tenant out, you can't raise the rent more than 10%, and you can't kick them out to raise the rent more than 10% with a new tenant. Penalties for this are up to a year in county jail or a $10,000 fine. Additionally, violators are subject to civil enforcement actions, including civil penalties up to $5,000 per violation. So that's on top of the $10,000 fine, injunctive relief, and mandatory restitution to the tenant. So what can you do? What can you do as a landlord? Now that I've put the fear in you, you have a couple things you can do. Number one, start stockpiling cash reserves. I stress this all the time anyways. You should have 3 months of reserves as a rental property owner for every single property in case things happen. Now you really need to. If you have none right now, then work your way up to 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Do what you can to get your reserves. Owning a rental property is very rewarding long term, but you have to be able to weather the ups and downs that come with it. And if you're not prepared, eventually a wave's going to come across and you may not be able to survive it. So start stockpiling the money. The next thing is understand that Formatic is bound by laws, as are you. Violating these, as we discussed with the California one, for example, could land you with massive fines or even in jail. We could lose our right to do business as licensed agents. So at Formatic, we do far more than collect rent. And I've said this before, I'm going to say it again. We are here to protect you, your property, and your peace of mind by acting as a legal and social buffer between you, your tenants, and the law. We go through extensive training Every week, our employees and our staff and our managers go through hours of additional training, news updates, legal briefs. We do this to make sure that you're protected. And we go this extra mile because we genuinely care about you. We talk about this all the time in the meetings. What can we do to protect our clients from different events that pop up? That's what these trainings about. This is what the video is about. This is why we can create these videos and give you information that you may not have available to you otherwise. Third option, landlord risk insurance. Now, this is something that's relatively new. If you're signed up to our Management Plus or Total Protection Service, then you can sign up for this. Please let us know as soon as possible. It is really important. Although it doesn't cover your costs during the time the tenant's not paying rent, once an eviction happens, it covers up to 12 weeks of rent and up to $7,000 in eviction and legal costs and court costs, and up to $50,000 for malicious damage by tenants. And it covers extra in case of things like death, and if possible, a tenant dies or things like that. It's going to cover you for that. Now, the setup for this takes a couple of weeks, and it doesn't apply. It doesn't come active until you've had a 60-day period where your tenant has not been delinquent. After that, it'll come into effect. If your tenant's already had 60 days, then it comes into effect pretty much right away. So you're covered there. But I just want to emphasize, if you want this coverage, and I recommend it, then you're going to want to make sure you tell us now, because telling us later, 3 months down the road, it may be too late. All right, final thing, repairs. We're cracking down on this, becoming very firm already because of different laws that have been passing. But we no longer allow people to do their own repairs if they're not licensed and insured, homeowners, things like that. They have to be licensed, insured, covered. And importantly, they're going to have to go through, be able to complete the repairs within a specific period of time. If the HVAC is gone and it's 100 degrees inside the house, or even 90 degrees, and the tenant's quarantined, we can't wait a week and a half for you to get 3 estimates. We already have great vendors who do the job right the first time for a reasonable price and guarantee the work. That's going to protect you, and that's going to make sure you're protected by the law. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'm happy to discuss different strategies for you, different options. Again, rentals are still a great place to be, better than the stock market right now, by sure, by a long amount, but you still need to take precautions. Again, reach out. If you're not a client, you can email us at hello@formaticpm.com. Or if you're a client, reach out to your property coordinator or property manager. We will take care of you. Thank you. Have a great day.